I'd like to call this meeting of the Coventry Town Council to order at 6:31 PM. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Here.
Councilmember Ludwig.
Here.
Councilmember Shockley.
Here.
Vice President LeBlanc is absent this evening, and President Lima.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the event of an emergency, attendees can exit outdoors 1 or 2 in the back of the room to the back parking lot or front lawn of Town Hall. Moving on to meeting minutes from prior meetings. Item A, November 16th, 2023 open session minutes and January 9th, 2024 executive session minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the November 16th, 2023 open session minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, did you receive any corrections?
I did not.
Hearing no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
President Lima.
Abstain.
3 in the affirmative, 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Do I hear a motion to approve the January 9th, 2024 executive session minutes?
Make the motion.
Motion by Councilman
Second.
Pasqua, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, did you receive any corrections?
I did not.
With no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Moving on to licenses. Item A, new Body Works establishment license. I'm sorry. First, public comment on docketed items. Are there members of the public who would like to make a public comment on docketed items this evening? Just come forward. Just state your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Ernest Nautilillo, 84 Coventry Drive.
And I assume are you speaking on behalf of the union?
Yes.
Okay.
On behalf of Council 94. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to speak about obviously the bid for sanitation. I'm here to represent the men and women in the division. Obviously, we know that you guys put out the bid and Mega was the only one to come back. This thing's been going on for a long time and we haven't had a new truck in obviously over 8 years, which is the biggest problem. I know if any business, you can't spend all the money today and then not maintain it for the next 8 years. The men and women of the department are probably the hardest working members of the town. They go above and beyond every day, whether it's for yard waste or just doing the routes. They've been running short for well over a year, and it's not their fault that we're in the position we're in. It's the town's fault. Everybody, all of us as residents, we went for a bond that was a 20-year bond for trucks that aren't ever going to see that. Like I said, we're here because if you go and subcontract, people that I've spoke to, nobody is happy with the service. Not as happy, I should say, with the service as when the people that live in town do it themselves because they have a vested interest in what the town does. You know, they're the ones that see people at Stop and Shop or wherever. Like I said, that they take pride in what they do. So that's, like I said, I just want you guys to really take that into consideration before we make a move. Obviously, no matter what, it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money, whether we stay doing it ourselves or we do subcontract. But I know the bid was a lot higher than what we can do it for, but we have to make an investment into the trucks. And if we're going to continue to do it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, name and address for the record.
My name is John Burns. I'm a senior staff representative from Rhode Island Council 94. And obviously I stand here tonight to oppose the privatization of sanitation and recycling. And the union is willing to, I know this has been the start of discussions about really doing a cost analysis. I've been involved with a number of cities and towns in cost analysis of sanitation and recycling. And there was, some that have privatized, some still have it in-house, and the towns that do, they might not say publicly, but a lot of them are unhappy with the service. And once you go to a private company and you lose the equipment or you don't invest in new equipment, it's totally out of your control. Just briefly looking at the bid looks quite a bit more than what they spend in-house now. Obviously, there's got to be some details on if you do lease purchase of trucks or however you do trucks, but even the bid alone, like some of the municipalities, the references, 7 out of the 11 municipal references they have in their bid, the people that they put as a reference are no longer in charge of those departments or even work for those departments. Some of the people that are on the reference list, as recently as a week or so ago, the town of North Providence wants to get rid of the company as their contractor. That's as recently as a week or two ago. So there's a number of things. Most of their recommendations in the bid are from 2015 and 2016. There's one from 2023, the way I read it. So I think we need to really take a serious look at the bid, and we certainly are willing to help with like a true cost analysis of what it costs the town now and what we can help in the future as far as purchasing equipment. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Just come up and state your name for the record.
Anthony Nardolillo, 10 Colby Drive. Obviously, speaking on behalf of Local 3484 as well. One thing that I want to hit on is the service aspect. I can tell you now, if a resident calls because they put their trash out late or they forgot about it, Director McGee always sends somebody to get that. That you're not going to get that with a private company. Unfortunately, due to the situations with the trucks being broken down, that's beyond our control. But I can tell you firsthand, Director McGee will send somebody out, even if it's just one stop. Mega or whoever you look at is not going to do that for you. I say we reinvest back into our members and the town with whatever the difference was. Let's train our guys properly. Let's buy better equipment, better tools to give them what they need to make it run properly. Thank you for your time.
Any additional public comment on docketed items? Any members of the public on Zoom, just raise your hands to be let in. Public comment on docketed items only. Public comment going once, twice, 3 times. Public comment on docketed items is closed. Moving on to licenses. Item A, new Bodyworks establishment license, Massage Cosmo, 6 Coventry Shoppers Park, Coventry. This is on pages 20 to 27 in our packets. Manager Prillo, did you want to talk about this? Is your mic on?
The application is complete. We have no concerns with the application on its face value.
Discussion from members of the council. Is the applicant here this evening? You just want to come forward? Just state your name and address for the record.
My name's Joseph Perry. I'm in here on behalf of my wife, Mia Perry.
Great. Can you just talk a little bit about the application, the business?
What's that?
Can you just talk a little bit about the application, or the establishment, what it is?
Massage therapy. My wife has a license for massage therapy in the state of Rhode Island, and we want to open up locally because we live nearby, and keep it close to home.
Okay. Members of the council, any discussion, questions? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second it.
second by Councilor Shockley. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes,
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to seek a motion to take the agenda out of order.
Make that motion?
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second.
second by Councilor Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
At this time, I'm going to move to report of other town officers and officials. Item C, Kevin McGee, Public Works Director, sanitation discussion. If you want to come forward, Kevin.
Madam
Or
President.
you wanna take
Yeah,
it?
I'm gonna speak on the director's behalf. The sanitation issue, I'm gonna talk in very general terms about and kind of why we are where we are right now, without getting into specifics of the bid or the budget. Basically, this has been an issue since I've been here. It predates me. It's an issue that we need to take on right now. It's very timely that a decision is made regarding sanitation going forward. First of all, I want to thank the sanitation drivers, the mechanics, and the clerks for all the work that they do every day. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for the service to the town. We know we know you want to make this process better. So whatever we do going forward is no slight. It's nothing against you guys personally and girls personally. It's something that we need to do for the financial welfare of the town. With that said, 4 decisions were made in the past regarding bonding for 9 trucks for 20 years when the life expectancy is 10 years. We're coming upon that time now where trucks are breaking down daily. Complaints are increasing. Everyone's at wit's end with what's going on right now. Overall, it's not unique to Coventry. Other municipalities I've called are having the same issues, whether they do it privately, whether they have private partnerships ranging from Providence to North Providence to West Warwick. So our concerns are not unique to Coventry. What is our ability to move forward by making a decision as to what we're going to do to make it better. With that said, again, I'm not going to get into any details today because I can't, but the town will be exploring the future of sanitation in Coventry. We're going to, in utilizing Director McGee and Director Civetti, the biggest concern is financially, how do we make it work? This is going to be a very difficult budget season, very difficult. Any increase in cost is going to be directly affected, that the taxpayer is going to be directly affected by any decision that we make regarding sanitation. So at this time, I think I'd rather leave it right there. I don't want to get into too many details, but just know that there's going to be things brought to this council in the next 2 to 3 weeks in which we're going to ask you guys to make a decision on the future of sanitation. Thank you.
Members of the council. Councilor Ludwig.
Can we just describe what level of detail we're getting into? Just so that everybody's comfortable here, because I'm not sure what we should be asking and should not be asking based on what's on the agenda.
The level of detail I can't get into tonight because it's not, I didn't properly note it in the document, but we do have numbers regarding bids and budgets and future costs that we're going to entertain and we're going to forward to the council in a very timely manner.
Is the bid that we I didn't even check, is that not available to the public right now then?
It is. It's available to the public. Yeah,
Is
Council
it-
94 has.
Does that have the numbers in it?
Yes,
Okay, but because it was not listed on the agenda, we can't go into the numbers?
correct.
Any further discussion? Councilor Shockley.
So I had requested some further detail on things and just want to make sure, maybe we could get some options that aren't all or nothing. For me personally, as a council member, recently, over the past week or two, as a differentiator, but I don't get a lot of complaints about the garbage and recycling pickup. It's the yard waste. So if there's something we're picking up that is supposed to be a benefit to our residents, but I get more complaints about that than anything else. Is there a way to maybe take something off the plate while keeping the garbage and recycling in-house. So just looking to get that sort of answer when we get to meet and talk about this.
I've said the same thing. I think it's nice. We want to extend ourselves to do as much as we can with what we have for residents, but I think we need to set better expectations and only offer a service to the extent that we can meet or exceed the expectations of residents. I guess we'll leave it there. Any further? Councilor Ludwig?
Yeah, so I actually get a ton of complaints about garbage and recycling. And again, it doesn't have to do with service level. It has to do with the trucks. The glass is all over my street. It wasn't picked up on time. It has to do with how many trucks are on the street. So I do just want to echo some of the comments that were made earlier, especially by the town manager. There's a wonderful young woman who came into my neighborhood. I'm on Teakwood. And yeah, so she waved at all the kids on the bus or getting in line for the bus. And I do find that to be an absolute community benefit to know the people that are servicing the town. So thank you so much. I think it's a wake-up call for some residents to actually see the bid and the numbers, because a lot of the complaints that I have fielded have to do with privatization will be better and it'll be a better level of service. And we're looking at a pretty big price tag here, which we can go into more next time. So I think there's going to be a sticker shock to residents
Yeah.
on what privatization actually costs, and something's got to give. So I would like to be able to take this back to District 2 residents and get some thoughts on that now that the bid is public and all that as well.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be the broken record. And I know Councilmember Ludwig can attest to this and agree that this is what happens when you don't make continued investment in your capital improvement of your town. This is what happens when you go budget by budget year, when you're voting on a budget and the first thing that gets cut to pacify folks is capital. So this is where we'll have this conversation over and over again. All right. So, Councilman Pasqua.
I'm just going to reverberate some of the statements up here tonight. I too get complaints constantly, trash recycling, it's constant. But I also want to hear other solutions, and another solution possibly that I'd like to hear about, if it's something that we can even consider, is maybe a short-term relief contract while we fix trucks. And you know, sort of like a, you know, just a little pause to repair everything and make that investment. Just, you know, I agree. I'm not comfortable with all or nothing. You know, I'd like to see other options as well. It's a big decision, and there's some pretty big numbers attached to it.
I love that idea, John. A pause so that we can fix what's broken, at least even for a short-term solution. Thank you for suggesting that.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. At this time, we're going to move to introduction of new matters before the council. Item A, presentation by grant writer Lisa Andosha and contract renewal for Rosewood Consulting LLC. This is on pages 80 to 82 in your packets. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, well-respected members of the council. It's a pleasure to come before you. A year ago, you retained my firm to actually do grant writing and administration, and I'm pleased to share with you we've had some wins. We received an award from the State Community Development Block Grant, Quidnick Park, for an all-inclusive playground, $500,000. Just today, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank announced $100,000. Batio Lake for stormwater improvements and infrastructure to reduce stormwater flooding runoff. Congressional direct spending projects. Senator Jack Reed secured $3,648,000 for Coventry High School, the sewer connection. Congressman Seth Magaziner, $770,000 for the police department. And I want to thank the administration for their support. It takes a team, and it started off with the town manager, Perillo. I want to thank you. Also, the assistant town manager, Maria Reyna, Director McGee, the entire administration has been so supportive. So this is a win that I think we can all share. Any questions?
Councilor Ludwig.
Can you just say the numbers one more time?
Sure.
Just one more time, because I just want to make sure everybody hears all these numbers.
I can give you a copy.
I want them out loud. Thank you.
Okay. The state community development block grant, Quidnick Park, an all-inclusive playground, 500,000. Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, Oak Lake, for stormwater improvements, 100,000. That's for design and planning components. Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank will be having a second round that we can apply for. Congressional direct spending, Senator Jack Reed, Coventry High School sewer connection, 3,648,000. Congressman Seth Magaziner, 770,000 for police equipment. That includes 360,000 of the 770,000. I'll itemize it for you, Councilwoman. It includes communications equipment upgrades for 360,000, police vehicles, 120,000, a mobile command unit, 120,000, K-9 vehicles, 80,000, technology upgrades, 24,000, and Rhode Island DOT is a separate one that was put in through DOT.
Thank you very much.
My
And thank you
pleasure.
to the leadership team for bringing in the grant writer.
Councilor Shockley.
So great work. The return on investment since I've been here is greater with this than with anything else that at least I've done the math on so far. So thanks for doing the math. I don't know if you can think on this. I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but I don't know if they have grants specific to Department of Public Works, where perhaps we could find ways to be able to fix or obtain new vehicles so that we can better serve the residents of the community. But when I look at the things that have been accomplished, I don't want asking for future things to take away from that at all. It's been great to have this asset. One thing I would like to know, just to know the return on investment, is what our typical grants are per year before we had someone who was as dedicated to it. I don't need to know tonight. I'm just looking for the information just so when we, just by way of comparison.
So I kind of have a little bit of an answer for that. In terms of CDBG, from what I've been told, Coventry hadn't applied for those grants in more than 10 years. And that money was just, it was there, but just we never applied for it.
I think that sort of detail is so important in knowing that these grants have been out there, and not that our managers didn't want to apply for these grants, but possibly without having someone dedicated to it, we didn't know the grants to apply for. We didn't know the different places that we could go to look. And just having all that information, I think, is so helpful.
If I,
No, I was just going to say every municipality is faced with the same issue, and it's labor shortage with staff across the board. So staff just don't have the time because there's such a high turnover.
if I may, Council President.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously bringing Lisa aboard was a great idea by council leadership. Just her relationship building, her contacts. She works very closely with Maria as the internal point person. So we have a great working relationship. And so inclusive in this to her report is her new contract for this fiscal year, which is in there. Her services are going up $1,000 per month, which I think is well worth it. And I see that coming out of the town manager's budget in a position where I did not fill my assistant position, my clerk assistant position. So that's going to be the funding mechanism for her new contract if it's approved tonight. Thank you.
I just had a clarifying question on the agreement. It says this agreement is entered into effective January 22nd, but then at the bottom in the terms, it says this agreement is January 1st to December 31st.
That could have been a typo on my end. Sorry about that.
Okay, I don't know if, so are we saying, is it retroactive to January 1st if this is ratified tonight?
I would say yes, because the previous agreement ended December 31st. So I would say with January 1 for
Okay.
this calendar year.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
Yep, sorry.
clarify that, no problem. Do I hear a motion from the council to ratify the agreement with Rosewood Consulting?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second it.
second by Councilmember Shockley. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes,
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to now, resolutions of the council. Item A, resolution 2024-1, approving the purchase of 2023 Ford Interceptor all-wheel drive SUV animal control vehicle for the Coventry Police Department. This is pages 68 to 69 in your packets. Hey, welcome.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you. So this is the replacement ACO vehicle. It was in the capital budget from this year. One thing to note on it, though, it was budgeted at $40,000, but with the increases in cost for vehicles as well as all the equipment, it's gone up $8,956.19 during that time. One thing to note on that was we just got another quote. They were going to honor the quote that we just had, and it went up another 3,000. So we didn't increase it another 3,000. So the cost of all these vehicles are going up substantially. Just to let you know. I talked with finance, and they believe that the money would be in there in capital under other amounts that weren't used yet. If not, we'd be able to use impact or something to cover the difference.
Yeah, I believe there's enough money in the capital account. There's extra money in there, especially the 24,000 that Director Robilad's not using for his vans. Plus there's some interest building up in that account also, so we can definitely cover the 49,000 for the vehicle, the extra 9,000.
Got it. Councilman Pasqua?
So we just heard from the grant writer that there's some money coming for vehicles. And I think they mentioned ACO vehicle, canine vehicle. When do we expect that?
The congressional directed spending last I'm hearing is March is when they're supposed to get final approval through Congress. And then that's when the awards will be officially given out and the money should be accessible soon thereafter. That's both the 3.6 from Senator Reed and the 770 from Rev Magaziner.
Is it reimbursable? So can we submit the invoice and get reimbursed like FEMA grants?
This is a ACO vehicle, I believe. This is
animal control.
the other animal
vehicle-
control. The other one's a canine vehicle, I believe, in the
Correct.
grant.
Patrol canine
Separate.
vehicle.
Yeah, separate vehicle. Yep.
Further discussion from members of the council? All right, hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Item B, resolution 2024-2, approving 4 Motorola patrol vehicle radios for the Coventry Police Department. This is on page 70 of your packets. Chief, floor is yours.
So this is to have 4 vehicle radios in our inventory. One is a VHF and one's an 800, so it actually outfits 2 vehicles. We currently don't have any. Our current replacement vehicle radios are basically 2010 and 2012. They were that year that we had them, and so basically the end of life on a radio is normally 5 to 7 years. So we're way past due on having any inventory on them. So these we'll be looking to have in stock because currently it's about a 6-month wait to have vehicles or more radios sent to us. So even outfitting the vehicles, we don't have the radios to put in the vehicles at the time that we get the vehicles.
Discussion from members of the council? Councilman Pasqua?
These are dual band, not tri-band.
They're 800 radios and VHF. I'm
Dual
not
band.
sure.
Okay.
The 2 separate radios.
Councilor Ludwig?
Does this fall into a similar category? Like, was this budgeted for? Does it meet
This,
that
this
number?
comes right out of our communications budget for radios.
Thank you.
Tangentially related, Chief, if I remember correctly, we talked about a couple of years ago that we don't have great reception out in the western end. Is that still an issue?
It's still currently an issue. There will be another resolution coming before you, probably next month, regarding a new tower that's being built, potentially in Foster. We're waiting to see. There's a town council meeting coming up for Foster where Rima's trying to build a tower over there.
Okay,
So this should rectify that issue.
all right, thanks. Any further discussion from members of the council? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll. Oh, sorry. Who's, someone's hand raised?
We didn't make a
Oh,
motion
it's good.
on the first one.
we
Now
did.
we didn't, I didn't get one.
Yep, motion was Pascal Shockley on the first resolution.
Pasqua? Okay, Chuck.
I thought we had one on this one. My apologies. Do I hear a motion to approve resolution 2024-2?
Make the motion.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second.
second by Councilor Shockley.
Okay.
Hit it, Joanne.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Resolution, item C, 2024-3, to ratify a one-year Council 94 contract with fiscal note. It's on pages 71 of our packets. Manager Perillo.
Thank you, Council President. So during our ongoing negotiations with Council 94, we decided to kind of break it into two parts. Since their contract is 1 year expired, their 23 contract, the solicitor and I decided to split it up. So they're going to have one contract, which is in front of you here, one retro contract, just 1 year, 3% increase. That's the only addition to that contract. That fiscal note's approximately $150,000. And we are currently in negotiations on a new 3-year contract. Hope to have that in front of the council within a month or so. We're very close with that, and we can update you guys in executive session next meeting as to where we are.
Okay. So I don't forget, do I hear a motion, members of the council?
Make the motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second it.
second by Councilor Shockley. Discussion from members of the council. Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Moving on to item D, resolution 2024-4, affirming the need for a Coventry redevelopment agency and appointing members to the Coventry redevelopment agency. This is on pages 72 to 73 in your packets. Manager Perillo, or
I'd like to defer to the solicitor if I may.
So the resolution is in front of you. However, unless you have a resident elector members to appoint, I would suggest you can sever bullet 2 on the second page of the resolution, or you can carry it to your next meeting, at which time you'll make the appointments. It's entirely your call. But if you don't have appointments tonight,
yeah, so I think the intent this evening was to introduce this to the council and introduce it publicly. We can do as the solicitor said, we can strike number 2 and approve a resolution this evening and then appoint at our next council meeting. And post the application on the website for the public to submit applications. So I'll ask the pleasure of the council. Councilman Pasqua.
Make the motion that we pass the resolution and do the appointments on the next meeting.
All right.
Well, a month, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's February 13th,
February
the
13th.
next meeting. We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
you need to have a motion to amend the resolution.
Yeah, I think we got a motion first To approve the resolution, then need to motion to amend.
So I make the motion, to amend the resolution to,
No, make
no, this is the amendment. We're putting together amendment. now.
Yeah, you can motion to amend, yep.
So make a motion to amend the resolution to put the appointments off to February 13th, but wake up the redevelopment authority, reactivate the redevelopment authority.
Or approve the resolution.
Approve the resolution. To do
So we have a motion on the floor to
I'll
remove item 2 in the resolved section and approve the resolution as amended.
I approve. I second.
Second by Councilmember Shockley, discussion on the resolution as amended. Or the proposed amendment.
Councilmember, you ready?
No.
No.
Hold on, my brain's processing. Let me see, okay. Yep. Okay, yeah. Clerk,
Councilmember
take the roll.
Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
President Lima,
Councilmember Shockley?
can I ask that the council members get emailed the application?
Yep. Manager Pillar. Okay, thank you very much. Resolution item E.
Actually, sorry, I apologize. Can I also ask that we get, is it possible to get this resolution emailed as well?
Yes, well, Joanne's gonna need to edit it to pull that section and then we'll
Okay.
post that.
Thank you.
Councilman Pasqua.
So I think we just voted to amend the resolution, but we didn't vote to adopt it.
No, you, in your motion, you said to adopt. Yeah, we're all set. All right. Item E, resolution 2024-5, approval of contract for appraisal services of Thomas and Dolfo to perform appraisals of the former Arnold Road Landfill in the wooded area at 50 Wood Street in the amount of $14,000. This is on page 74 of your packets. Assistant Town Manager, welcome.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. This is actually an interesting story. Took a little research. So back in 1978, the town applied for funding to build a recreation facility on top of the Arnold landfill. Right? And in 1983, it was a minute ago, 1983, the town was awarded for I don't know, I was graduating from high school. The town was awarded $41,000. I was able to get and the DEM has been really helpful in working on this. It's funding that came from the National Park Service through the Rhode Island DEM, and it was a file this thick, back and forth. At one point, it was going to be a soccer field. At one point, it was going to be a complex with tennis courts. And we were going to put it on top of the closed landfill where we were composting leaves. Well, we never did that. Chances are, if one division of the DEM talked to the other, they probably wouldn't have allowed it anyway. So fast forward to last year, the town received a letter from the DEM because the Park Service was auditing their files to say, hey, where's our park? So, right? So the process now is that we have to basically trade that land that would have been that park for another parcel of open space land. They're not going to hold us to keeping it in the same specific area because there really isn't another place for it to go. But they will hold us to having things equal out through an appraisal process. So fortunately for us, we have a really nice piece of wooded land that's next to the senior center. It's about 14 acres. It's a beautiful piece of riverfront property. It was part of the whole piece of land where the elementary school was built. It was land that we got from Kent County Water back in 70s. whenever it was, it had a 25-year clause that it couldn't be used for anything but a school in the deed, but that's since expired. So preliminarily, the folks from the DEM have been talking to the folks in Washington from the Park Service, and they think that that sounds like a good trade. But we have to appraise the landfill property and the property at 50 Wood Street and go through a process with them. The appraisal process follows what's called the Yellow Book, which is the federal standard. And to what level they'll appraise the landfill, that's going to be the thing that we're all sort of scratching our heads about. Originally, I was told, well, they'll appraise it as if there was never a landfill there and it was just industrial property. I think we've moved past that now, so I think it's going to work out in our favor. But we do need to hire an appraiser, and Dolpha, who has a contract with the town to do some other appraisal work, is one of only 3 appraisers in the state that actually have the experience doing this conversion type appraisal and to the federal Yellow Book standards. And they are on the state's master price agreement. So my recommendation to you is that we hire them so we can keep moving through the process. One of the questions that I did ask the folks from the DEM was, can we just give you the money back? Because there's no way we're going to put a sports complex on top of the landfill. And the answer was no. They will not hold us to building a soccer field or an active sports arrangement, tennis courts, all of that kind of stuff, because we can make the argument that we actually have some fields that we've never striped for years because we just don't need that right now. And it would be a financial burden for us to maintain it. The piece of land that's next to the police station, I would love to take you all for a walk out there. It's beautiful. It has some of the biggest pine trees in town. It's right on the river. It's has no restrictions on it that would prevent it from becoming this. So through the process, what will happen is we'll kind of create a new park in an area where we don't have a lot. And it would be one that we would have to go through and do a park management plan for. We would probably have to commit to putting probably 5 parking spaces that are already there as part of the senior center, as part of the conservation easement. So that piece of land would be put in a permanent conservation easement, but you'd be adding something that we would not go much further than maybe marking trails so that people didn't get lost. I know Director Robillard has really loved that property and would love to see something where we could actually take the seniors from the senior center out for a walk. He said there's good fishing down there, which I'm anxious to try out. It's a really nice piece of land. So that's the process. We have to hire an appraiser to appraise both the landfill and the land that we would go to swap. And then we would, bring that back to you, because you really should be the ones who approve that becoming a park. It's our land now. We don't use it for anything. It's just sort of extra. But this is the next step in the process, is hiring an appraisal company and then going through the process with the Rhode Island DEM and the National Park Service. Through this process, that is one of 6 or 8 different grants that we got over time. Briar Point is one of them. The fields by the recreation center. So this is just one that we just didn't build. The other ones are probably in compliance. We haven't really changed the use a whole lot. We probably need to put the signs up because the signs are supposed to stay up, but we haven't gotten that letter yet. So we'll stay tuned for that. But happy to answer any questions if I can.
Manager Perillo, can you just clarify where the source of the funding is proposed to become?
Land trust, a land trust fund.
Okay, and we're allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Questions from members of the council? Councilor Shockley?
I might have gotten a little lost on our walk down the path there. So we have the funds to pay for the appraisals. 45 years ago, we were offered $41,000, which at that point would have built a sports complex.
It would have partially built a sports complex. We were supposed to spend lots of
I know what
other
the
money.
was.
But we took the 41,000 and I'm not sure what we did with it. Who knows?
So we took the money already.
We did. Yes.
Okay, so that I hadn't been clear on. I thought we hadn't taken the money. We took it, they want their park.
No, I made them prove that they actually gave it to us.
But
Actually,
you mentioned we could have given it back. So do we still,
we could
have the
not
money?
give it back.
no. Did we have the money to give it back? Like, is there $41,000 sitting somewhere in a account that everyone's like, what is this $41,000? So I guess my concern here is,
It's too long ago. It'd have been absorbed.
so
Yeah.
we're paying $14,000 right now to put a sign up next to the senior center that says this is a park.
And we're putting that land permanently in a conservation easement. Which it's not now.
Which
So
I
it's the trade.
I think is great. I definitely like the idea of having that land be in an easement. I guess I'm just wondering, why can't we just put it in an easement? Why do they require us to do all these appraisals first?
Solicitor.
Because you have to provide a conservation area that is of equal value to what you
We're back live. I think we were frozen there for a little bit, so thank you for your patience. We're gonna get back to our agenda. Move on to Council President Communications. So there's just a couple of items I wanted to address. our recent storm events that we've had, particularly as it relates to rain and wind events. I know many, the council members up here received many complaints with respect to flooding in homes, flooding around their streets, flooding of retention ponds in developments or near town property. The solution we've been offering right now is if you have damage, we'd request that you follow on the town website. There's an opportunity to submit claims with Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency. I can't stress enough how, and I think the Public Works Director and the town manager can attest even from their experience, but this is unlike any kind of rain or weather events we've seen. And I just don't think that and this is a problem across the state, I should say. This isn't just a problem unique to Coventry, but our infrastructure was not built to handle the amount of rain that we're receiving. I remember the flood of 2010 and what that was like, and it seems like we're having a flood of 2010 every other week at this point. So I just ask the public for their patience. We're doing our best. I know that we're also pursuing long-term some climate resiliency projects to upgrade our wastewater management and stormwater management. So I just would ask the public to be patient. I know it's frustrating, but please visit the town website if you feel that you have a claim to submit for. And I believe Manager Perillo, we had submitted to declare an emergency on this, correct?
Yes, we're part of the Rhode Island. We are included in the Rhode Island Declaration, correct?
Okay, thank you. I wanted to bring up as well snow plowing operations. The last storm that we had, it felt like we were caught kind of flat-footed. I had talked to Manager Perillo and said, what was the reasoning? Was it because we didn't think the storm was going to drop a lot of snow? Or was it because I know that we have a lot of DPW guys that are sick and out? I just wanted to know the reasoning, and he'd explained to me that we just had so many guys that were sick. What are we looking at for solutions for next time? So we're a bit more timely when it comes to plowing.
So we have 3 people are back to work. And we also had 2 trucks that were down for that storm. So as far as I know, those trucks are back up. And like I said, we do have 3 people back to work. So we are prepared regarding that aspect of it. I also spoke to the union, and I want to integrate a secondary snow plow vendor list that I guess hasn't been done before. I guess there was always some pushback from the union, but they are on board with that as long as we don't violate anyone of their members' rights to come back to plow for the town. So I'm in the process right now of working with them and coming up with some language that we're going to add to the contract, allowing the town to establish a secondary vendor list. So if we do have a shortage of manpower or what have you, we're allowed to call these vendors in to assist in the operations.
Okay. The next item I have was the municipal road paving program. So at a recent League of Cities and Towns meeting, it was shared that the governor's office and the General Assembly don't intend to build in funding for this again. And I know that it's really important because we got, I think, what was it, $800,000 to pave roads. So this is going to be a priority legislatively for the league this year. So at some point, I would hope that the rest of the council will consider supporting a resolution from the council to our General Assembly delegation to bake this into the budget. I think this is something that's absolutely worthwhile, and it's a no-brainer. And then lastly, in terms of trauma-informed care training, I had a conversation with Director Robillard from Human Services. He would like to offer a training for the town council, school committee, and town employees for the trauma-informed care training. We're one of very few towns in the state. I think we were the first to receive funding for this type of training. He's talked about it before, but essentially it's to provide individuals the skills and the ability to, and I'm sure Councilman Pascoe kind of knows about this as well, but to help mitigate certain situations where somebody needs a safe space, they're reacting to past trauma, and offering them kind of the support that they need when they're trying to self-regulate. Yeah.
So he got back to me this afternoon with a tentative date till February 28th
Okay.
for that training.
All right.
We're waiting for Allen College to confirm, but that's a tentative date, February 28th, 4 to 7 at the Oak Room, is it, at the high school?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So he just once we confirm that, we'll send it out.
Okay. Obviously not mandatory, but he wanted to extend the invitation. And I had asked him if he could do it before March and April, knowing how often we'll be meeting. So those are my items. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on those. All right. We're going to move to introduction of new matters before the council. Item B, approval of Narragansett Electric to be granted permission to locate and maintain conduit, wires, and fixture, including the necessary sustain and protecting fixtures to be owned by your petitioner along and across the following public ways. Arnold Road, the following poles to be installed to support a line extension for Tanu DG site. P87-814 stub pole to support New Junction, P87-1, P87-2, and P87-3 to support conductor going into the new DG site. Solicitor Angell, you'd still have a comment?
I do. So the council is aware there are 3 easements involved in the transmission of electricity from the solar array. The council passed on 2 of those and approved them in December. This is the 3rd of those. This one somehow got lost in the leaves of the trees, I guess. In a meeting we had last week on the construction of the solar array, this came to light. Director McGee was kind enough to work with me to ferret it out. We got it, and here it is before you for approval. And I respectfully request that you consider approving it.
Do I hear a motion from members of the council?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion to approve? Motion to approve by Councilor Shockley, second by Councilman Pasqua. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Going up to report of other town officers and officials. Item A, Robert Civetti, Finance Director, December 2023 budget to actual.
Good evening. So you have in front of you the budget actual for the 6 months ended December 31st, 2023. I did not provide the detailed list like we've been doing in the past, just because we looked at one a week ago. There really hasn't been significant changes between November and December. But just, bottom line, when I say not significant changes, if you look at the very last page, obviously it's showing year to date. So through 6 months, it's showing us with a deficit of 1.1 million, whereas in November, we had a surplus of 4.6 million. Obviously, the swing there, or the primary reason for the swing, we don't have many collections in the month of December. Our next tax collection will be coming up in February, but yet we still have the semi-monthly payments that we have to make to the school department. So that amounts to 4 million. So just our payments to the school department for maintenance of effort is a little over 4 million, 4.1 million. And we only collected our total revenue increase for that same time period for the 1 month was only just over $1 million. So that's $3 million swing right there, an additional cost. I'll just highlight, if I can, just point you a couple pages that I highlighted in my notes here. But again, generally, if you're looking in that far right column, percentage available, if we're more than 50% still available, we're 50% through the year, that's a good thing. If on the revenue side, obviously may show that we're bringing in more revenue than anticipated on the expenditure side. Be a savings at that point. So on the bottom of page 4, you see the total revenue for the 6-month period, where total revenues just under $54 million, which represents about 47% of our revenue. So again, we have additional collections coming up, which based on where we're trending, I still anticipate that our revenue and a number of line items would be more than anticipated. On page 6 of your report, just a couple items that, jump out. So under the IT, I have it right, I'm sorry, under the human resource section, you see actuarial services, we budgeted 65,000. Year to date, we spent 80,000, so we've overspent on that line item. Primarily the reason we had 2 years worth of actual reports that had to be completed this year. The town was behind, as you know, with the audit, also behind with the actuarial evaluations. So some of that work was started last fiscal year, but completed this fiscal year. So just the cost overrun in periods. On page 7, under the town clerk's department, just going to be a reclass where you see the deputy. It looks like the salary line item for the deputy has been overspent. We had the deputy in the town clerk's office retire. That item was budgeted a couple lines below where we had retirement payout. So we need to do a reclassification of that salary or the payout that was paid to the deputy. Again, we don't anticipate any overspending or over expenditures in that department. On page 9, you have again the grant consultant, which we discussed last time. So it's under the treasurer's department. We will reallocate that to the town manager's department. That was discussed at a previous meeting. And also you'll see insurance claims. We pay the insurance premium in full by the month of August. So therefore you'll see that we've overspent on that item. Premium came in slightly higher than what we had budgeted. On page 10, underneath the tax collector's office, again, you'll see it looks like we only have 29% of the budget to go, but the largest line item in their budget is the appropriation or the additional funding that we do to help supplement the operations of the sewer department or the wastewater department. So that $200,000, we did the transaction in the month of December to show the entire allocation. So again, nothing there. So again, if you have any specific questions, I could certainly try and answer them this evening or get you the information, but not much has changed. We're still in par, I think, to come in higher on the revenue side and be within budget on the expenditure side. And
Members of the council, questions, comments for Finance Director? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the solicitor's report. Couple things.
Everybody seems to like talking about the landfill, so I guess we'll lead off with the landfill. No, we're not building recreational fields on top of the landfill. So first things first, there was cap damage, as I reported to you at our last meeting. We've followed up on the cap damage. You won't be happy to learn that the cap is ripped. The liner has been punctured in that area. But it is where the PRP group is obtaining estimates to get that fixed. And we'll let you know what that's like. There has not been a breach of the material that's in the landfill. I know that's probably on your mind. We've just got to be more careful with how we plow. I also included in the report the maintenance agreement for the landfill, where the town has agreed to provide maintenance services with respect to the areas around the landfill, which includes plowing. It also includes an annual refurbishment of the rough road areas around the landfill. I've not had a chance to speak to Director McGee to talk about whether or not the amount of material that's called for in that maintenance agreement is adequate to do the job, nor do I know if the cost estimates from him are adequate. So we're going to talk about that. I don't know whether or not that agreement adequately compensates the town for its obligations under the terms of it. So I'll get back to you on that. That's an open item on our 60% end of the PRP group, but the rest of them, you know, the group has to pay its fair share. The town is compensated out of the trust fund for those maintenance efforts, or at least it should be. And that's where that money comes from. It's not like it's an out-of-pocket expense for the town. It's actually a reimbursable. I just want to make sure that we're adequately being reimbursed. Questions on that? I can't wait until we get a bigger podium here to spread things out. Construction of the solar array. We had a meeting last week on the 16th. We filled up a good piece of this room with folks from Amoresco, Watershed Solar, Watershed Geo, WSD, GZA, the engineers were here. Mr. McGee attended, I attended. I also represented the other 40% of the PRP group at the meeting and reported back to them on that. It's there's a lot involved in this project, and I'm going to turn to my notes so that I can give you an adequate sense of how long it's going to take to construct this thing. So we when we met, all told, you know, we want to know, when is this thing going to be up and running? It's really not going to be up and running until most likely September at the earliest. That's what the construction schedule looks like. I know that, you know, early on in this council's term, that there was a rush to hurry up and let's get this done because, you know, they were ready to construct this thing. Well, we're not there yet. We had a meeting. We talked about the fencing. That needs to be fine-tuned. There needs to be a site visit to do that. That's being organized, and it will happen. Probably happen, you know, the first week or two that we get some dry weather. We want to get it staked out. The fence will be built, I would suggest, most likely by at the latest second week of March. That's the estimate. We're going to work off the master price list. Kevin McGee will have the insights on who the contractor will be. The town will pay 50% of that, as you know, and the developer of the solar array will pay the other 50%. So they have the developer of the solar array has paid their share of the insurance policy for the year, which was 50%. That policy costs the group over about $11,000 a year. They'll pay their 50% of that. They have already. They'll continue to do that. That's important because the more money that the trust fund expends in the operation of, you know, the landfill, is less money that's available to run forward and extend the life of those trust funds. So, and I'll go over the specifics of the performance review. Also last week, we had a performance review meeting of the portfolio of assets. Presently, there's a little over $1.6 million in trust fund assets. There is positive cash flow. 80% of those assets are in fixed income investments. The other percent are in equities. The rate of return last year was not stupendous because it was not a good year for fixed income assets. The average rate of return was about 5.25% on those assets, but nevertheless, the fund is healthy. I know that Council Vice President LeBlanc had inquired about the budget relative to the operations of the PRP group and the trust fund. I do have a thumbnail of that on an Excel spreadsheet, but the books are not closed for last year. I'll bring that forward to you as soon as we have it. GZA prepares that document. Last year, the trust fund expended about $166,000 with respect to, with respect to the, this venture. That's an unusual year for them, I'm told. We'll dig a little further into that. I will tell you that for the town's side, as you know, we have discontinued outside counsel in handling trust fund matters and in handling other landfill matters. That cost us last year. I don't have the full number from finance yet, but I want to say, last year we probably, or from November to November, we probably spent the better part of $30,000 on outside counsel. And that's one of the reasons why they've been discontinued. There's no need for that. Questions on anything I've updated you on so far? So in terms of the construction of the solar array, the council may recall that I had recommended to the council when the agreements were signed that we obtain the services of oversight during the construction process to ensure that the cap not be breached, and that the town would pay 60% of that, and that the remaining stakeholders in the PRP group would pay 40% of that. That would be a real-time cash expenditure. In other words, David Graham, representing that group, would go to his members and they would kick in their 40% share for construction oversight. GZA has personnel who have expertise in this type of oversight. I have a contract from them. It's about $16,000. I think it's short money. If we can put a snowplow through the cap and breach the liner, if somebody drops a solar panel on top of this thing, you're going to get other problems. And what your inspection group does is they have real-time monitoring of the construction process so that they're picking up breaches or defects in the cap as a result of the construction, and those costs are necessarily shifted to the construction firm at the Amoresco for reimbursement to the trust fund, and to ensure that the waste that's been sarcophagized is safe and not in danger of making its way out the way it shouldn't be. So I made it up. So,
1 week.
yeah, I mean, we want to keep it contained. Obviously, we don't want breaches.
Solicitor Angell, I'm just a little confused, so I just want to back up for one moment. So I remember our last conversation about fencing and putting something up and locking the gates. I'm not clear. I don't know if I missed an email or something on a plow going through the cap.
Yeah, I don't think that that was not something we talked about publicly at the last meeting, the hitting the cap with the plow.
I thought we had actually,
No.
because I remember having a back and forth with Councilman LeBlanc.
No,
on
the
that.
back and forth was about how the DPW employees didn't want to get in and out of the truck multiple times. It wasn't about
I apologize then. So yes, I mean, what had happened was the road that runs down the side of the landfill was plowed, and somebody missed a marker or whatever,
And it got hit. Okay.
plowed into the cap itself and breached the cap in the liner.
Will the future fencing, I thought the fencing was going to be on the outside of that.
The fencing really, if you can picture this, the fencing will fence the entire property. And then inside of that will fence the base of the actual landfill mound, if you will.
Oh, a second
Correct.
fence?
But only part of it is a second fence. It joins the actual outside fence at a certain point.
Okay.
And that but that would not have solved the problem that we encountered with the cap. It relates to staking, I would suggest. I mean, I had a conversation with GZA. as you can imagine, the snow on the ground, they couldn't see it. It was 17 degrees, that kind of thing. But now that the snow has melted, they're going to be out there now to stake this thing out and make sure that this doesn't happen again. It's a relatively new development. I just got the report from GZA on myself and Mr. Graham. It came through on Friday with a follow-up on Monday of this week. So it's yesterday. So it's relatively new as to the extent of the damage.
So I'm not sure if this is accurate, but it just kind of seems in the last few months, this cap is headed for doom. I mean, we've had gate issues, we're having possible plow issues. I'm starting to, in the past 3.5 years, I never got nervous until now that things are starting to pile on top of each other.
Well, I think we're having more dialogue. I think we're having more informed dialogue. At least, I mean, this is the point. I mean, I want you folks to know what's going on out here. This construction process, which, you know, my handling of the solar lease was met, not suggesting the council, but certainly by others, with a fair amount of angst, like, hurry up, what are we waiting for? And my concern was just this. We need to talk about construction process. We need to talk about what our policy covers. We need to talk about all of these contingencies, which is why it was important to me that we get more money and manage a Perillo, and I achieved that on a per unit basis. But in the meeting last week where we talked about this construction project, GZA has since sent a private memorandum to myself and to Mr. Graham, pointing out some of the concerns that they see with respect to the construction process. There was a definite discussion about how they'll be bringing trucks into this area to offload materials and then get the trucks out of there. And part of what we're gaming around is this isn't as simple as turning a truck around and driving it out. These trucks are big, and you can't do that because you will, as you can imagine, if you put a tablecloth on this floor and you twist it on the tablecloth, you would twist it, you would move it. Not suggesting it's that simple, but you get the idea. So yes, I mean, there are a lot of moving parts to this for sure. Yep, there really are. And that's why I think it's important that the council know exactly what's going on.
Thank you.
To Councilmember Ludwig's point, though, it seems like we keep talking about how serious it is to protect this cap, but it seems like we're not getting the same vibe back from those of our town that are using that area. So I don't know if I don't know what else to do to impress upon. I understand you couldn't see it and it was under snow, but I want to reiterate from our last meeting where we talked about this. Like, I don't know how else to make the staff care more about the amount of money this is costing the town and how serious this is.
This is the first I'm hearing about the snowplow incident. I wasn't aware of that, but I've told Director McGee about locking that gate. And I travel the town at least a couple of times a day and go by there specifically to make sure it is locked, and it has been locked.
Yeah, I've noticed.
I don't think we're accessing that area as much now because I think there's less construction going on. So there's no need for us to go into that area. So it's definitely locked more than it was in the summer and fall.
And there will be in the early spring, because as we collect street sweepings from the winter, those street sweepings are deposited on a part of that property that we use. And in the course of this construction project, we're working out ways to provide wider and better access to public works to get to the area as part of this. That's why the site visit is vitally important. When we sat in the meeting last week, Kevin and I and GZA had a brief discussion with GZA about, she noticed Nicole Morawski is her name, who's assigned to the project for GZA. She actually lives in the area and travels that way. So we're kind of fortunate. And she noticed where the plow had gone. And she actually went in there and looked, and she said, this is a problem, but you couldn't see the full extent of it because of the snow cover. Kevin knew about it, and we just didn't know what we had in our hands until we had a little bit of a thaw. And that's, there's no point in getting riled up about anything until we know what we have. So,
I don't know if it's a sense of riled up, but it's just a matter of.
But it does seem as if, and I guess I could say luckily, it was harmed in the maintenance by us as opposed to leaving the gate open and people using
Yeah,
it
like
for
some
purposes not intended.
I do think it points out the fragility of the cap.
Yeah. Any other
Yep.
comments, questions based on what he said so far? Okay.
The last point, I had made you aware, and maybe I didn't, but I believe I made you aware at the last meeting that we signed off and filed the first annual report to DEM for the environmental land use restriction. Since that report was filed, I don't see any reason why we can't publish that on the town website if it's okay with the council. I think it's good to keep the public informed about the health of the landfill. So if that's okay, if the town manager does that, I think that might be a good thing. That's all I have on the landfill, unless you have other questions. So, we'll move on to the technical review committee. As you know, from the implementation of the new mandates from the General Assembly on the Affordable Housing Act, part of what we've done in changing our zoning practices in town is to implement the use of a technical review committee, which is a pretty common tool utilized by other municipalities. It had not been utilized here in Coventry. It's a group of employees and others who are stakeholders in the town, whether it be DPW, engineering, planning, your fire officials, your police chief, and so forth, to talk about the impact of, various proposals that come before planning and zoning and what it means to their individual departments. So the inaugural meeting was held last week. They have their own rules. They are subject to the Open Meetings Act. Their meetings are taking place in the conference room in the planning department, and they are broadcast meetings. They occur during the day. It is not a public participatory meeting. Just to remind the council, the OMA guarantees that the meeting will be open and the discussion of business will be open to the public. It does not guarantee public participation, and it really is not appropriate in that forum, nor is it customary in that forum. At the meeting, the group was reminded of their obligations under the Open Meetings Act, under the Access to Public Records Act, their ethics filing responsibilities, and just the general operation of a meeting. Everybody's comfortable with it. The planning director did an excellent job, and the group is pretty well settled. I do not see the need to assign legal counsel to the operation of that committee. That committee is essentially a point of compilation for the input of the various constituencies that I mentioned, to give their input on a project, for those comments to be compiled and then sent on to planning and/or zoning as necessary to inform those groups of the department heads' thoughts on a project. And you'll have a formal written report on a project by project basis, but I don't see the need to assign a solicitor to that. And I did attend the first one, and I think if Mr. McLean feels as though my input is needed, he'll reach out. The solicitor's budget, I'm still waiting on items from finance, which will come along when they come along, and we'll get you the analysis that you need. I know that about a year ago in February, we did a compliance training for the OMA, APRA, and annual ethics filings for department heads, boards, commissions, council, whatever. I didn't know what the council's appetite was for me to bring in someone from the AG's office, someone from the Ethics Commission, and do that training again. I'm happy to get that organized and and I thought it was very successful last year. I thought it was beneficial. It's always helpful to remind people what they should and shouldn't be doing. So I'm happy to organize that if the council wants it done.
Councilmember Shockley.
I would say whether or not we have it in the near future, knowing that in November, we're going to be turning over some board positions. We would want to make sure that we got that done probably around this time next year.
Sure. Do we want a
So-
refresher in the spring or no?
No, none this year.
I wouldn't do it now. I mean, you're gonna have a half new council or more and everything else a year. You gotta go
Yeah.
through all that stuff.
Well, the council members will get outreach from the
Right.
ethics commission, as it is and with respect to OMA as well. But in terms of board committees and commissions, I still see that we have members of those boards that still don't understand how these things work. I'm willing to defer to a majority of what the council would like, but I certainly don't think a refresher hurts, and whoever wants to go can go. But I just, given the legal liability and wanting to make sure that we're following all the rules, I
Yeah.
don't think a refresher hurts.
I think if I may, obviously it doesn't cost the town anything more to have it done. I think it might be beneficial to have planning and zoning do it again. That's something I can do in-house that won't involve an assistant solicitor. I can ask to be put on their agenda and given some time to speak with them about that and give them a refresher. I think it would be helpful. We're going to see an uptick in activity, particularly with the access to public records in regard to planning and zoning applications. That's something that you're going to see with the implementation of the new statute. So those two boards in particular, but I mean, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. Who does APRA for our boards and commissions?
What do you mean, who does it?
Like if someone has an APRA request, who takes
Town
care of it?
clerk. Yeah, the by statute, the town clerk is our official. However, as Joanne and I both know, those requests for information get farmed out to the various departments. And sometimes those departments just respond. And they really just need to get the information back to the clerk so she can respond. And I think, I think I can work with the manager in those boards and just, let's get that training done for those folks, and particularly the folks in the department too. Those two areas in particular, planning and zoning and their respective boards, I think would benefit from that. Doesn't cost the town any more to do it. I do it for you, and we'll get the materials from the state to do it. It's not that difficult, and certainly Joanne will participate. I'm sure she'd be just thrilled to be there.
Council President, 1 second, if I may. Just to get back to the TRC, I spoke to Director McLean, and he said if the council wants a more in-depth discussion on the TRC, he's willing to appear next meeting and give you more details. He wasn't sure how in-depth the council wanted to know the process. I mean, the solicitor gave a very good overview as to what takes place during those meetings, but he did promise during the zoning change of laws that if the council did want more information, he would present just on the TRC and the use of it and so forth. So that's an option also if you guys want that.
Okay, so to move on to try to get everybody out of here at a reasonable time. There was one outstanding item with respect to the compliance on the OMA with filing annual calendars. The BOC had some outreach from another registrar's office to provide them with a different way of filing their annual calendar. My understanding is that that's being dealt with. I will follow up on that. Everything else is in compliance with respect to annual calendars. License fees. What's that? Oh, I beg your pardon. I don't know if you have it in your packets, but the ACLU has put out a paper with respect to open meetings and public comment. And I think it's worth talking about for a minute. Of course, the ACLU takes the position that the public, I mean, they'd have voter initiative on whether or not you could buy a postage stamp, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, look, the government should be open and, you know, the guardian of liberties is important. However, you folks need to get your business done. The OMA, just to be clear, does not require public participation and or comment in a meeting. There are points at which it is required by law. This council provides an opportunity for comment to be made on docketed items and undocketed items. It's more than ample. And at the pleasure of the chair and a full, you know, a majority vote of the council, you can hear from anybody. I mean, you obviously you can't talk along with them on items that are not on the agenda. But I think this council is very liberal. Nevertheless, and I apologize, I don't know if that was distributed to the council. You did. So I mean, give it a read. If you have questions, please reach out to me. Yeah, no, we're going above and beyond. So I just want the council to know that as you read that. You know, you tend to get things like that and say, holy crap, are we doing this? Yes, we're doing everything that we can and then some. So licensing fees. Chapter 122, sections 1 and 2 provide you a table of sorts with respect to your annual licensing fees. And I know that we're coming into budget season. I'm not saying that, you know, we tip the couch over and look for coins and dollar bills to fill the coffers, but our licensing fees are low in comparison to other municipalities. And I think as you go into, you know, we're below the median. So I think if you go into budget season, I think you should think about revisiting that cost structure on some of those. Certainly through the league or the clerks association, we can readily get a comparison as to what's being done in other cities and towns. I know that's music to Mr. Civetti's ears, but we're low, and I think we should be on a par with other municipalities in this area. So I wanted to point that out. It came to my attention as I was reviewing the code for other reasons. So at the council's pleasure, I'm happy to put that ordinance together with the clerk or whomever. So I'll leave that to the manager if he can tell me what he wants, and we'll get the amendment done. Lastly, the National Opioid Litigation Settlement. There was another disbursement, and the town of Coventry was awarded $64,660.91. And that'll go into Mr. Robillard's fund, I assume. There are restrictions on how you can spend this money. And I'll be working with the town manager just to ensure that we don't have another soccer field on top of the landfill where we take money for something and then use it for something else. And I can tell you that in terms of these settlement documents, they will want their money back with interest. So we just want to make sure we don't run afoul of that.
And Mr. Robillard is on top of that. That was another thing I spoke about with him last time I met with him, is he's pulling together an ad hoc committee that includes the town manager, the chief of police. I think he's going to get the fire districts involved as well, the school department. So he's on top of it.
And with
Playing together.
respect to any guidance I can provide to finance or the town administrator on making sure we follow I'm happy to put my 2 cents in. So. That it.
Any
Thank you.
questions on the solicitor's report? Thank you. With that, at this time, we'll open up to public comment for undocketed items. If there's a member of the public who would like to make a public comment on an undocketed item, just come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Luke Murray, 121 Hill Farm Camp Road. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, so I hope you maintain it. I'm aware that it's not an OMA requirement, but I think it matters in open government. I wasn't going to lead with this, but I heard a point earlier about APRA and I wanted to offer it up. Many of you know I'm deputy town manager in SK. One of my early projects was dealing with this issue because we had similar volume and a significant amount of volume on a couple subjects. I ended up building through an OpenGov platform, which you currently use for your e-permitting, an APRA portal. And I assigned through this, we were setting up a municipal court. We assigned an APRA coordinator, and it's out of the clerk's office. But the portal itself has been extremely effective. It uses the open source OpenGov platform, which you currently own. So I don't even think it would be a cost. We could offer that up from SK. We could have our IT directors talk, but I think that could be adopted in whole. It essentially allows workflow among directors. It gets pushed out to the directors. You see it all through the APRA coordinator, and then you can certify it through automatic documents back to the recipient. The benefit is if there's an AG complaint, you can get an audit of the entire thing, all the correspondence. And I can tell you, I have one individual right now that I have probably about 24 requests in the past couple of weeks. So that audit, and he will file multiple AG complaints. So I just wanted to start off offering that up. More than glad to help. I think as communities, we should be helping each other with this stuff. It's something that I think the league should be taking more forefront on, trying to get municipalities together and sharing this information because it really is no cost. Since we statewide, most of us own that platform. All right, so I'll get to my point. I will say as a resident, I've been extremely happy with the services I've been provided. All right, my trash gets picked up. I don't ask for a lot. I think overall, my road gets plowed. I pay my taxes and I'm happy. So I'll start with that because I believe in positive. But I have serious concerns about the town. I have serious concerns that have come from the past, and it's no one sitting here. But poor planning has led to a variety of issues. When I go to drop off my trash, I look at the trucks that are rotting and the old infrastructure. I look at the dog pound, which it's a pound, it's not a shelter, right? It's the old style. Many communities have built new shelters. The infrastructure is failing around town. And I feel like we're at a point where it's tough to catch up. And I wonder, how do we get there from here? The way you do it, I think, is through proper budgeting and a lot of grit work. And as we get into budget season, which I know you're there, which I do want to make a point, this is just feedback, right? I always look at feedback as a gift for the town manager. The budget schedule is not on the website. And if it is, I didn't see it. So is it? Okay. It just wasn't under the budget section. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I didn't refresh or something. All I see was 23, 24. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the ARPA page is also, it's definitely dated. It has the old town manager's signature on it. That is, yeah, I'm sorry, ARPA. I always get those confused. So yes. Funding. Yes. ARPA. Yeah, I think the actual link to the ARPA, like it's one of the top links on the government. I was just trying to figure out where the funding went and the explanation. I think I had the old town manager information. It's not a big deal. I just want to let you know. Mm-hmm. But, as we get into budgeting, I just wanted to identify investment areas that me as a resident value, and I think it would help us move forward. Planning, Parks and Rec, people and staff, sanitation, and tools and tech. From planning, I'm not just talking about community planning, although we've made great strides on the comp plan and getting what I think we're in compliance with state law and a lot of the things coming down, which we all know is comprehensive and a little bit burdensome at times. But it's also about financial planning. And one of the things that's frustrating for me as a resident, this goes way back, right, is we still operate off spreadsheets, right? And I look at a spreadsheet, but it doesn't tell the story of the community. What are we investing in? Like the budget should tell a story. The GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, gives an award for budgets. They do that to compel or persuade communities to come up with good budget documents. A budget should be more than numbers. It should tell the story of the departments, what they're doing, what the key performance indicators are. It's part of a strategic plan. One thing we've never invested in is a budget software. Now, many do it through Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and other things, but those things don't have workflow. It's labor intensive. I've done it. It's very difficult. I would highly encourage you to look at, and depending on where the town manager sits on this, look at something like ClearGov or OpenGov or Questica, something that you can workflow in with your department heads, get a budget together, and it includes narratives, pictures. Like if you're going to replace a truck, that truck should have a picture of the holes in it. You know, and as a resident, it tells a story to me that this is needed. We've never told that story in this community. And it's extremely frustrating because I know there's needs. You can drive out here, but most people aren't driving out here. They don't see it. So strategic planning is part of that. That's a big initiative, but it doesn't have to be. A simple strategic plan could be 3 pages for you. Doesn't have to be a big thing. And then I know you've done great work on the fire district planning. I'm a big proponent of that. It's time. We all know the struggles that have happened, but every time these issues come up with the fire, it corrodes the culture of the community. Because every time we talk about finances, whether you like it or not, everyone blends everything together. And so I know EMS and fire do a great job in this community, but it's a tough conversation and it's going to be even tough going forward. But from a budgeting standpoint, you're going to take on that project, have regular meetings, and you may have to hire somebody to project manage. You may have to have a special project manager to see this through, because I don't know what kind of staffing you have to see that through. That is a big effort. And that could be something that project manager is managing other projects, but again, priorities, funding it. Parks and Rec, I'll touch on quick, just investing in programs, working with local nonprofits. I applaud you for bringing back programming into this town, which we haven't had for a long time. Just keep it up. People and staff, I don't know about your people, but every one of mine wants a raise. It's a labor-friendly market, and it's hard. And unfortunately, I know for a fact, and I haven't done a salary survey in Coventry, but I know the workers here are traditionally paid lower on average. And I don't say that to put pressure on. I know, because I've looked at the salary surveys. You can pull up the league salary survey. It's right there. Overall, this community tends to be what I consider undervalued. I'm not looking for this council to give out raises to everyone, but there are other creative ways to recognize the work that they do and to encourage them. So I just offer, through wellness, through engagement, fund some of those little pockets where somebody can go out and gives, those rewards or send them the training that they really want to go to. I just hope we're doing that. One of the ideas might be creating a training fund, per employee, per employee, you put $50 away per employee for the organization. It goes into a pooled fund, like a non-major technology fund. And then you can tap that fund for training. Just things that just get creative in supporting our people. With regards to sanitation, I know it was mentioned tonight. I will tell you, I've had no problems with the sanitation in this town. I know there's a delay, whatever. I come home a few days later, the recycling's picked up. I can tell you in the community that I'm working for, we don't have that sanitation. You pay for it. Westerly pays for it. Hopkinton pays for it. Many communities pay for it. We're on par with more like a Warwick, but we're still a smaller town. So it costs a lot more proportionately to provide that service, but it's an important service. And the difficulty with moving to a private company is once you go that way, it's tough to go back. If you don't like that company, you haven't invested in your own infrastructure. This has nothing to do with union, non-union workers, any of that conversation. But if you ask Mayor Picozzi over in Warwick, where they were, because I was there 4 or 5 years ago, he was in a tough place. Their trucks were breaking down every day. And what did they do? They set a priority that they're going to fund the equipment and they're going to rebuild that division. And they tabled everything else. And that's maybe the point we're at. And so I get into this. The reason I was looking at the ARPA funding, what we have left, I know this town had about 10 million. It's not where I'd like it to go. But I can tell you this. I wrote a little thing down here. I said, I don't need any new shiny objects. I'd really like to have the current operations work well and equipped with what we need. And that's my feeling on it. I know there's a lot of things we want with that money, but it's what we need. And so we didn't position ourselves well to use ARPA for like many other communities. We could have been positioned to leverage grants, to build a new rec center, to do nice and shiny object things. We're not there. So we do what we need to do. You fund sanitation. You do basic services well for the next 5 years. You do the things that it's the grind work. But I think the community appreciates it. They want the basic services. I don't think anyone here moves to Coventry because they're moving to a coastal community and they think it's all shiny and roses. They want a good family community, reasonable house prices, and they want to do their day to day. They want the trash picked up. I want my trash picked up. So that's basically all I have to say, except for a last thing. Sorry, and I appreciate the time. Technology and tools. This kind of goes through everything. When you get feedback from staff, and I'm sure the town manager is doing this. If you have opportunities to fund those tools, fund them. Never take away the things that when people want to do their work, like a clerk or somebody in assessors or whatever, and they come and they say, hey, I could really use this tool. It'd make me more efficient, but it costs money. It's an investment. It's not a cost. And so a lot of them want these tools to do their job better, more efficiently, and to do the more with less. And so a lot of times the attitude is it's just too much, we can't afford it. But the truth is you can't afford not to invest in those tools, especially today. It is not 50 years ago when we had clerks everywhere and it was people heavy. We do not have enough people in government. The very last thing, this is personal. About a year ago, I'm going to tear up, my dad passed away. And John, you took care of him during a very tough time. And I just want to thank you publicly for that. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the EMS services in this town. Thank you.
My pleasure, Luke. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any other members of the public comment on undocketed items? Come forward to the podium. Just state your name and address for the record. Any members of the public on Zoom, just raise your hand to be let in. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Public comment is now. Sure. Yeah.
So
Yada yada Johnston. Yeah.
Coventry. So as the council knows, we sent out through the assessor's office and my office, we sent out correspondence last week to the public about recertification of tax reason information or exemptions. I just want to publicly thank, number one, the public that has come out so far. They've been very cooperative with our staff here, but more so the staff here in the assessor's office and the entire office. We had people from tax collectors, finance, everybody assisting. So we've had, a good turnout right now. The public, in my opinion, has been receptive. You might get 1 or 2 disgruntled individuals, but when you explain the process and why we're doing what we're doing. But again, the staff here, I think, has done a tremendous job. We've had a lot of people in there. First thing this morning, 8:30, the line starting, and it was constant until probably 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I just want to publicly thank the public, but also the staff here for helping with that process.
All right, thanks. All right, moving on to executive session. At this time, I will take a motion to go into executive session for the following. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2 for litigation matters re C94 AFSCME AFL-CIO versus the Town of Coventry. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2 for litigation matters re Town of Coventry, notice of violation dam number 176. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2 for litigation matters re Town of Barrington et al. V. State of Rhode Island et al. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2 for litigation matters re Nicholas E. Cambio, trustee et al. V. Commerce Park Realty LLC, and Matthew J. McGowan as receiver for Commerce Park Realty LLC et al. V. Commerce Park Management LLC. And pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2 for litigation matters re Social Holdings LLC v. Town of Coventry. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Councilman Pasqua.
Second.
Second by Councilor Shockley. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
May I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Councilman Pasqua. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua. Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
May I have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Councilman Pasqua. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Members of the public, the council met in executive session to discuss 5 items. On item C, executive or closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, section 42-46-5A2, re-litigation matters, re Town of Barrington et al. B State of Rhode Island et al. There was a vote. Madam Clerk, can you please recite the motion and vote, please?
A motion was made by Councilmember Pasqua to grant the solicitor permission to withdraw the town of Coventry from the litigation matter regarding Town of Barrington versus State of Rhode Island. It was seconded by Councilmember Shockley. All voted aye.
Thank you. At this time, I'll seek a motion to adjourn at 9:15 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Pasqua, second by Councilor Shockley. All those in favor